Good morning. Today's headlines: Queen Elizabeth II has died at the age of 96. Her son Charles will succeed her on the throne. We look back at the Queen's reign and what the future holds for the British monarchy.
Former Trump advisor Steve Bannon pleaded not guilty to New York State charges on Thursday. He claims the indictment is politically motivated.
A new law in North Korea enables it to launch preemptive nuclear strikes to protect itself.
Sunday will mark the 21st anniversary of 9/11. We spoke to an Air Force veteran about the memory and sacrifice of that day. Good morning. Welcome to NTD. I'm Kevin Hogan.
Good morning, and I'm Evelyn Lee. Today's Friday, September 9th, and the world today is mourning the death of Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen's death was announced officially by Buckingham Palace yesterday, just hours after the news that her doctors had placed her under medical supervision. Her death brings to an end the longest reign of any British monarch. Here's a look back at the Queen's reign and what the future holds for the monarchy in Britain.
Born on April 21, 1926, the princess had never expected to ascend to the throne. But after her uncle, King Edward VIII, abdicated in 1936, the crown passed to her father, George VI. She was just 25 when she became Queen Elizabeth II in 1952, after the death of her father. Winston Churchill was the first of her 14 prime ministers. The young Queen Elizabeth spent much of the early years saying farewell to the British Empire, amassed by her forebears, from Kenya to Hong Kong to Barbados. However, she remained the monarch of 15 countries and head of Commonwealth. Her own personal union to Prince Philip stayed solid for 74 years, until his death in April 2021. The couple had 4 children, beginning with Charles, who was born in 1948 and who now succeeds her to the throne. The Queen's life became one of public duty, attending thousands of official engagements across the globe. Millions turned out to celebrate her 70th year on the throne in June 2022. The Queen herself had to step back from some of the partying due to recurring health problems. Commentators agreed she came across as a dignified, down-to-earth and witty woman. Critics said she was too solemn and distant, a woman recognized by millions, but known by hardly anyone. Away from her public duties, horse racing and her beloved corgis were lifelong passions. Much of her reign was tainted by misfortune. 3 of her 4 children's marriages had failed, and there was a major fire at her Windsor Castle royal residence. The death of Charles's ex-wife Princess Diana in 1997 was even more harmful to the family's public prestige. With Queen Elizabeth's death, the monarchy's future is likely to face scrutiny like never before. Polls suggest Charles will be a far less popular British monarch. And there are other challenges, including Prince Harry and his American wife Meghan giving up their royal roles. The US sex abuse lawsuit against Prince Andrew, as well as his subsequent ties to disgraced billionaire human trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, also left its mark. The death of Britain's Queen Elizabeth finally hands on the duties and heavy responsibility of the monarchy.
Queen Elizabeth II met with almost every U.S. president during her over 70-year reign. That amounts to 14 U.S. presidents. Her meeting with President Biden in 2021 was her last. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the story.
That all started in 1951 when she arrived in Washington, still a princess. She visited with President Harry Truman, escorted by the Duke of Edinburgh. She came of age during World War II, and she understood the central role the transatlantic alliance has played in modern British history. Her personal ties to U.S. leaders underscored the importance of the United States to the U.K. and to the Queen. She made her first official visit to the States as Queen in 1957, hosted by President Eisenhower. She would then return in 1976 to celebrate America's bicentennial. She and Prince Philip visited Washington and were hosted by President Ford. They also traveled to Arlington to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. After her time in Washington and Virginia, she traveled to New York, where she toured Bloomingdale's and was awarded with a bicentennial medal by the mayor. She later made 2 visits to the United States under both Bush administrations. In 1991, she was hosted in Washington by President George H.W. Bush, where she awarded him with the Churchill Medal. Later, she came to Washington when George W. Bush was president. She also visited the Kentucky Derby on that trip. She was always greeted warmly by Americans on all her visits to the United States. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Well, now Prince Charles becomes King Charles III, picking up the responsibility of maintaining the monarchy that his late mother carried for so long. Here's more.
Prince Charles has spent most of his life waiting. But now, says former royal correspondent Charles Ray, the longest-serving heir to the throne in British history has a new and very immediate role.
It's very much, the Queen is dead, God save the King. Simple as that. It's almost a seamless transition. I mean, from the moment that the Queen passes away, Charles is King. It's that simple.
Born in 1948, he became heir apparent at the age of 3. Following an unhappy time at school in a remote area of the Scottish Highlands, he studied at the University of Cambridge. He was made Prince of Wales by the Queen at the age of 20. Charles then entered the military before leaving to concentrate on royal duties in 1976. His relationship with his new subjects has been at times turbulent. Following years of speculation about his marriage plans, Charles married 20-year-old Lady Diana Spencer in 1981. They had 2 sons, William and Harry. The marriage ended in 1992. The decision was apparently amicable at first, but emerged as acrimonious by the time of their eventual divorce in 1996. The union was said to have been a disaster from the start. The tragedy was compounded by Diana's death in a car crash in Paris a year later. Charles was left looking an unlikely sovereign, and royal watchers openly questioned whether he would ever be crowned. Author Penny Junor maintains he is a popular figure.
There are always going to be people who don't like him, because he has been quite a controversial figure. He's got involved in all sorts of quasi-political areas and expressed his views. But anybody that has come across Charles, I would say, or who knows him, will love him.
Charles's long-term relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles became more public after Diana's death. The couple were married quietly in 2005, after gradually appearing in public together and becoming part of the royal circle. Charles began undertaking more official senior royal duties after Queen Elizabeth scaled back her workload due to ill health. Professor of the history of monarchy Anna Whitelock says the transition from heir to king will not be radical.
He's not going to reflect or represent a fresh face for the monarchy. It's going to be another, aged, elderly monarch ascending to the throne, even though, of course, he's been Prince of Wales for so many years.
Next, the new king is preparing to meet with the Prime Minister today and to address the nation. Starting today, the country began a 10-day mourning period, and heads of the state are expressing their condolences.
The Union flag will be lowered on public buildings across the United Kingdom. The monarch's personal flag, the royal standard, is never lowered because the monarchy never dies. Now back to the U.S. Steve Bannon pleaded not guilty to New York State charges of money laundering, conspiracy, and fraud yesterday. Prosecutors allege Bannon defrauded donors of the We Build the Wall campaign. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg tells us more.
Bannon was led handcuffed into a New York State court on Thursday.
This is what happens in the last days of a dying regime. They will never shut me up. They'll have to kill me first.
He was charged with 2 counts of money laundering, 3 counts of conspiracy, and 1 count of scheming to defraud.
Mr. Bannon must be held accountable in this jurisdiction, the jurisdiction of New York State, for his conduct as the architect of this scheme, which impacted hundreds of Manhattan residents.
The state charges are based on the same conduct Bannon was charged with by federal prosecutors in 2020 that alleged he and 3 others defrauded donors in the border wall effort that raised over $15 million. Bannon was pardoned by former President Trump before he left office, and the case was dropped without trial. Presidential pardons do not apply to state investigations. Prosecutors allege Bannon diverted hundreds of thousands of dollars to the fundraiser's chief executive, who had promised to take no salary. Bannon was released without bail after his arraignment. He says the indictment is a partisan political weaponization of the criminal justice system.
In 2020, The SDNY, the federal guys down here, dropped the exact same charges to do what? To make sure that I could not assist President Trump in winning the 2020 election.
Bannon's attorney says it's not clear why the indictment had been sealed and that it's virtually a carbon copy of what happened in federal court.
We respectfully suggest that there are political reasons behind that, in all likelihood. It's not coincidental that Mr. Bannon is now being targeted, again, shortly before the midterm elections, consistent with the time he was indicted relative to the 2020 election last time around.
If convicted, Bannon could face up to 15 years in prison for money laundering, although prison is not mandatory. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Manhattan prosecutors also charged the nonprofit We Build the Wall on Thursday. The company pleaded not guilty.
Michigan's High Court has put the abortion question on the November ballot. Voters will determine whether to place legal access to abortion in the Michigan Constitution. This settles the issue a day before the fall ballot had to be completed. Legal access to an abortion would be guaranteed if the amendment passes on November 8th. The Democratic Michigan Attorney General hailed the decision. She says the Michigan Constitution provides the people with direct access to the democratic process. Meanwhile, a group called Citizens to Support Michigan Women and Children said it will campaign against the amendment. Right to Life of Michigan will also be a major opponent. They say that any nation that sees the next generation as an existential threat rather than an existential necessity has no future. And meanwhile, South Carolina senators rejected a near-total abortion ban. 5 Republicans, including all the chamber's women, refused to support it.
And over to Hurricane Kay. After landing in Mexico Thursday afternoon, Kay has weakened to a tropical storm. Heavy rains are expected as it moves in on Southern California today, which could help with the wildfire southeast of Los Angeles. Sustained winds are at 70 miles per hour. Over the next 48 hours, the storm is expected to weaken more. Southern California could see a year's worth of rain over the weekend. While it's desperately needed, that much rain in a short period of time can cause flash flooding. It's rare for a tropical storm system to hit Southern California. A meteorologist from the National Weather Service says only 16 tropical systems have come within 250 miles of San Diego since 1950.
Moving on now to a different topic. The horrors of 9/11 was a tragedy that shook the entire world. And then for a short while, it brought the nation together with a rare spirit of public unity. This Sunday will mark the 21st anniversary of that day, one that also sparked a decades-long war on terror. So here to remember that day is Eric Ballister. He's a retired Master Sergeant of the Air Force and one of the men and women who fought in the global war on terrorism. Good to have you, Eric.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Eric, what was the experience and impact of that day for you? I mean, let's start with, where were you when it happened?
I was stationed in Hawaii. It was a absolutely brutal duty station, and it was a peacetime deployment or a peacetime mission that I was on. So not only was I in the most beautiful place that you could be stationed at, but we were living in a constant state of peace. So there was no chaos going on, and it really was, it was a really big change for me to be able to go from that state of service directly into what was going to be 20 years of armed combat. So it was quite a transition for me.
Wow, and on that journey, you did lose men and women that you were deployed with. Tell me more about their legacy.
It's a constant pain. It's a pain that is balanced between pain and happiness. Pain of losing somebody who was as committed to the country as our forefathers were, as to see the potential in these teammates, in what they stood for, and knowing that how impactful they were on their community. So it's painful to see that taken away from us. It makes this world a little bit darker, but at the same time, it helps me with my happiness to say that I did know them and that their legacy still lives in me, and I take that opportunity to tell their name and to to show up in my community a certain way because of their legacy. I know it's important to them, it's important to me that I have an opportunity that they do not have, and I'm not going to waste that opportunity. I continue their legacy in service of others, and that's when they left this life. They left this life in service to others. And that's very clear to me, and I'll continue that mission.
Yeah, and that's very inspiring. And I want to also know from you, what is it you think people should remember about 9/11 on this anniversary?
I think you alluded to it, and that's the fact that remembering them and remembering their legacy, you bring up a great point, and the legacy piece is what endures. That's what will remain even after they leave this life. So I would tell anybody who is maybe wasn't alive during this time frame that it's important to remember the legacy of others, and sometimes it's easy to enjoy the fruits of the labor of those that have sacrificed. But if you can remember them, and that's the smallest gesture that we could do, but you ask questions of these individuals and you seek information, I think that's a great way of remembering their sacrifice, and then helping. I think that helps the people that maybe are less familiar with that event and how it impacted our nation. It's going to help them with the upcoming struggles that they're going to be hit with. Let's be honest, the pain will not stop. The pain will continue on. But if they can remember, I believe that's the best and easiest thing for them to do.
Beautifully said. And on that note, thank you so much for sharing your story today, for sharing your time, and of course, for the service that you have done and continue to do. So, Eric Ballister, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Coming up, a new law in North Korea enables it to launch preemptive nuclear strikes to protect itself. And Britain is planning to spend big to limit the rise of energy prices. UK Prime Minister Liz Truss laid out her plans Thursday. Stay tuned for more right here on NTD Good Morning.
Navigating a world of economic madness, you need to have the right guide. What do today's decisions mean for your tomorrow? We ask why. What's the alternative? Uncover the deeper reasons and the hidden influences, and highlight the real opportunities for profit. At NTD Business, we connect the dots for you. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. NTD Business. I'm Paul Green.
An unbelievable 9/11 hero story.
It was a one-way mission.
Fighter pilot Heather Penny was sent to take down a hijacked plane,
ramming our jets into the airliner. That's crazy.
Honestly, I don't believe it.
Gives you shivers.
But Flight 93 met with a different fate. Learn why their bravery is still her biggest inspiration.
What the passengers on 93 did that day gives me hope.
This week on The Nation Speaks.
Welcome back. North Korea has passed a law enshrining the right to use preemptive nuclear strikes to protect itself. Kim Jong-un said this makes its nuclear status irreversible and bars any denuclearization talks. The move comes as North Korea appears to be preparing to resume nuclear testing for the first time since 2017. That's when former U.S. President Trump held a summit with the North Korean leader. The new law outlines when nuclear weapons can be used, including in response to an attack or to stop an invasion. It also allows for preemptive nuclear strikes. That applies to cases of detecting an imminent attack by weapons of mass destruction or against the country's strategic targets.
And the UK is setting a cap on energy prices that should keep household bills at current levels for about 2 years, preventing an 80% expected increase. Here's British Prime Minister Liz Truss.
We will also support all businesses, charities and public sector organisations with their energy costs this winter, offering an equivalent guarantee for 6 months. After those 6 months, we will provide further support to vulnerable sectors such as hospitality, including our local pubs.
And this plan could cost an estimated $175 billion funded from new borrowing. Financial markets were rattled by the news, with the pound falling against the dollar to levels not seen since 1985. Trust says the typical household will pay no more than £2,500 per year for the next 2 years. Converted, that's close to $3,000 US. The opposition Labour Party opposed the increased borrowing and wanted the new measures to be funded through a windfall tax on energy companies. During Truss's campaign, she had initially ruled out handouts for households, but energy costs threatening to drive Britain into a long recession forced the new prime minister's hand.
And in other news, around 20 floating liquefied natural gas terminals opened in the Netherlands on Thursday. The Dutch port of Eemshaven will receive LNG from other countries and convert it into heating fuel. European nations are eager to replace the natural gas once bought from Russia, with winter quickly approaching. The Dutch Minister of Climate and Energy says the terminal will increase LNG capacity by 8 billion cubic meters before winter. Most of the LNG that Europe hopes to receive is expected to come from the U.S.
The opening of this terminal is an historical moment for the Czech Republic. It takes us a long way toward energy independence from Russia.
And the best way to ensure energy independency for the Europeans is to use our energy more efficiently, to become more self-sufficient in clean energy, and to diversify our energy imports. In the short term, LNG is one of the main tools we have to achieve these goals.
The Prime Minister of the Czech Republic estimates it will cover about a third of his country's annual consumption for the next 5 years.
Up next, a Texas college student has been working towards adopting a baby he found 5 years ago while he was visiting his family in Haiti. We have this heartwarming story and more after the break.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha 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 ha.
See, Smokey thinks I'm funny.
The 2022 NTD 8th International Chinese Vocal Competition will be held from September 29th to October 2nd at the Merkin Hall of Kaufman Music Center in New York City. The competition is honored to have specially invited vocalists with the world-renowned Shen Yun Performing Arts to serve on its panel of judges. The gold award is $10,000. For more information, please visit vocal.ntdtv.com.
Good to have you back with us. A 4-month-old baby was found abandoned in the trash almost 5 years ago in the Caribbean country of Haiti. He's now a happy and healthy boy thanks to a college student's big heart. Here's that story.
It's more of a love story.
When Texas State University student Jimmy Misioff visited home in Haiti during the 2017 winter break, he didn't know that his life would be changed forever. Jimmy was on his way to volunteer at an orphanage when he found a 4-month-old baby covered in fire ants and abandoned in the trash.
Like people saying, I'm not going to touch that baby. The baby is evil, he's cursed.
With no hesitation, Jimmy brought the baby back to his mother and they took care of him. The Haitian police and a judge came to his house and asked if he wanted to become the baby's legal guardian.
So at the time, when he said that to me, I'm 22, still in school, and didn't really know how I was going to be able to take care of him.
But Jimmy believed there must have been a reason he found a helpless baby, who is now 4-year-old Emilio Angel Jeremiah.
And I took a leap of faith by saying, yes, I'm going to be there for him. It's those divine moments and divine interventions to bring light, to show love to the world, and show the world that we can do better.
Since then, Jimmy let the baby stay with his mother in Haiti while he took a break from college to work and earn money for adoption expenses. With the help of online fundraising, Jimmy says he now has enough funds to fully adopt Emilio.
I hope this journey can be an inspiration. I can see how the world is connected right now with that story, and so it really shows that the world can really be connected through love and kindness. So let's love and be kind, and so that we can have a better world.
Jimmy has also created For the Love Foundation to give school supplies and resources to children in need in Haiti. He hopes to see his family again soon, since he has not been able to go back because of Haiti's current political unrest. NTD News, Texas.
Heartwarming. And today, the nation gives a bear hug to a popular childhood toy. Every year, September 9th is National Teddy Bear Day. The day honors one of the oldest stuffed toys in the U.S. that still exists today. It's one of the most popular toys among children, and it has a special place in the hearts of many adults as well. The teddy bear was famously named after the 26th American president, Theodore Roosevelt. Kevin, do you know the whole story behind how the teddy bear got its name?
No, Evelyn, tell me.
All right. Well, President Roosevelt was sometimes called Teddy. It said he refused to shoot a bear cub when he was out hunting, and the Washington Post published a cartoon about that event, and that inspired a New York store owner to create the toy. He asked the president for permission to use his name, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm glad to know the story now, because in the future when I see one, it will remind me of the kindness the president had.
Yeah, I think I will look at it differently too.
Talking about bears, police in Simi Valley responded to an unusual home break-in. A homeowner called for help to chase away a bear from her kitchen.
Hey, Bear! Bear, get out of here, Bear!
Body cam video shows officers entering through the front door and scaring the bear away. The large, furry intruder appeared to have entered through an unlocked door. Police say the homeowner took shelter with her son in an upstairs bedroom. She then tossed the house keys out of the window to the officers. Apparently, the officers noticed the bear helped himself to a baked cake. He had also gone through the refrigerator. Nearby neighbors also saw the bear going through their homes and trash cans.
Well, lesson learned, don't bake cake with open doors if you don't want an unexpected visit.
Yeah, not in bear country. And Evelyn, that reminds me of the time when I was at a cabin up north in Michigan. I woke up to find a black bear had torn up the screens and broken into the porch.
That sounds so scary. Yeah, be careful of bears, everyone. And on that note, we're ending the program here, but just before we go, remember to shoot us an email at goodmorning@ntd.com. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. We've made it through the short work week, so have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.